number one, being really accountable. Number one, yourself as a director and setting up that excellence for your program, because you're going to be the center of that if you do really want it to be excellent. Having students who are respectful, and you're teaching things beyond the music. You're teaching them how to be good humans, teaching them how to be responsible and dedicated to their craft. You're teaching them to not only be respectful of each other, but having a love and a respect for music as well. And I think once those things are set in place, it kind of just trickles down and takes care of itself.
Yeah, what about you, Chris?
For me, I always try to think as multiple things in our program. I think about first about how I want our kids to act, how I want our kids to be in rehearsal, to each other, to the staff members. I want the kids to be set up to where they know how to learn and they know what they want. I want us to be a positive part of the community and in our building. I work in a small town, so I want our community to know that we're behind our community. So from that standpoint, I want that to be an excellent thing. Looking at the academic side of band, I want to give the kids the best education they can get with the best opportunities that they can get. And for us, we try to do different things with the kids with our proximity to Houston, being able to use, people from the Houston Symphony, the University of Houston. They're trying to give the kids just a world-class education. And then also the adults in the program, myself and my assistants, modeling how you're supposed to be good people, how to treat everybody with respect, and just groom people to be, really good human beings as they go, as they get older.
All right. Finish it off for us, Mr. Davis. What do you think? How does excellence fit in?
I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here, because we have some great people here, and then you're going to find that some of the answers are exactly the same, but they've hit the nail right on the head. And just to kind of put the icing on the cake, it's about sustainability of all the items that they've already talked about. And so as you establish these same parameters in each of your programs, the question is, what is sustainable and what isn't? Because the foundation that you lay is what's going to set the path for your future. And one of the things I will say about all of these things that they're talking about, I have a sideways triangle that I use in my model, and it's time. And the biggest end of the triangle is the amount of time it takes to establish this quote unquote idea of success. And the more you move, I know it's crazy, but the more you go in that triangle, it kind of becomes a straight line. It's a system. And all of these things that they're talking about, the accountability of your students and the way that the attitude of your students, the musicality of your students, the intellectual opportunities that you provide your students by showing them the way, so to speak, those are the things that are going to have to be sustainable. So you got to make sure you have things in your program that are measurable and sustainable.
Yeah, and one of the things that I want to point out is that not a single person said anything about a championship or a trophy or any of that. They're qualities and characteristics that they want in their kids. And I think that's super vital for us to point out. Now, the $1 million question is, how do you develop something like this in your program? How do you go from nothing or a program in tatters to something where it is excellent? How do you do that? You guys can jump in when you're ready.
I think it's like I was saying when I was speaking earlier, it starts with you, number one, having a vision of what you want to see in your program. But number two, you being a daily source of inspiration for it, because whatever you do, your students are going to do. And there's your students are completely your shadow. So if you are coming to work late every day, then they see no reason to get there early. Or if you're not requiring them to do have a pencil, and it's something that simple, having a pencil for class and you using it every day, you don't start screaming on Friday, where's your pencil? You haven't asked for it Monday through Thursday, why would they have it? So just personal accountability, and then sharing that and making sure that's really well expressed within your staff so that they can see that it's just not one person barking about it all the time, but that it's the culture of the band team that's creating that too.
Yeah, the word culture, you said culture, I think it's really important. And even the details that Corey talks about, as simple as having a pencil. Yes, now I teach high school, but I've had the privilege of teaching in if you want to say in I don't know, I taught in Rosebud, Texas, which is like a country town, if you will, very small town in Central Texas. Taught in inner city Waco, and then I've also moved all the way to Fort Bend ISD in Sugar Land, and now in Katy. So that I think that kind of covers the whole gamut. But the one thing that has always been the same with me is, like Corey said, being the example for your students and watching the students improve and watching the programs improve, not just in performance. Yes, performance is important, but not just in performance, but in their experience in your program.
One thing that I would say when you're trying to create a culture and then you're trying to maintain it is try to create I personally like being in an environment where I'm around really smart people that are equal stakeholders in the process. And so, like, I love being around my private lesson staff, my staff of other directors, the high school staff. And so what I want the kids to see is I want them to see how much I enjoy creating, just a group of directors that enjoy working with each other. And then I share that vision with the junior high staff. I know when I started at Miller 6 years ago, the thing that I started out with was talking to every lesson teacher and not talking so much about like the details of what we're going to teach, but what I wanted long-term for the kids to get out of the program. And we talked to the staff about that. And then I would talk to our students, and I work really hard to try to I would suggest trying to get as many of your kids on board to be the equal stakeholders in the process, because as much as we have to give them information, the students at the end of the day are the ones that produce all the music that we do. And we want to empower those students to be able to see the vision and to be a part of it. Because if you get those kids excited about what you want and the program that you want and the awesome potential of what it could be, then the kids will do a lot of the work for you after you plant those seeds with them. And so I think that
Did we lose him?
Oh, he froze.
Oh no. That's good.
He was
good
preaching too. He was revving up.
He was awesome.
Well, when Chris gets back, I'll be quiet. So get on back here, Chris. I'm going to tag on to how Chris started, was that phrase, surround yourself with people who inspire you, surround yourself with people who are better than you. And I think that as a young teacher, I was really eyes open to figure out who those people were and who those programs were. But vision is the top, is just to have a vision of where you want to go. And then the patience to know it's not going to happen in 1 year or 2 or even 3, because that culture takes time to create and to root. It could be healthy, but not rooted. And then it's not sustainable, to tag along with Rory. And the perseverance to stay the course and to continue the plan, and to communicate what that plan is to your staff, to your department, and then like the look in the mirror that Corey keeps saying, like the ability to evaluate, assess, and replan and start over again if something is not working, and then something I'll tag on to is to create a leadership system in the program that will then establish accountability among the students, not to the adults, which is, I think, super, super important. So are you back, Chris?
No, I haven't seen Chris come back through.
Okay.
He took his money and left.
He got that check and ran, man.
That's funny.
Hey, I didn't hear about that.
When I get my check, I'll send you yours. So everybody's kind of hit on it at some point or another, but talking about accountability and having something set up to where the accountability is consistent. What are some things that you think would be helpful for people to see as far as a system of accountability in your program, or that they could implement in their program?
I know a lot of people do different things as far as accountability is concerned. Are we talking about, like as far as, I don't know, something as simple as an objective sheet or a practice record or a recording? Is that kind of where you're going?
Yeah, it's wide open.
Yeah, from a concrete, if you will, accountability, we do objective sheets in our program. And I know a lot of people have problems with that. And usually the problem comes because it's hard to establish and to get going. And I find that a lot of people don't use them or can't get through it because of the details that it takes and the time that, going back to that sideways triangle, the time that it takes to establish a process. At St. Range High School, this is my fourth year there, and we put in the objective sheet thing. I had been doing it at St. Range Junior High for years and years, and we put it in at St. Range High School, and it's tough at first because it takes the team, the director team has to be in agreement, and you have to create those objectives together. And then you have to come up with a system of how to keep the kids accountable. If the objective sheet says, hey, it's due this day, then you got to have a plan in place to be able to grade it, so to speak, and to be able to drop it in the grade book. And in different places, some people may say, well, my kids don't care about the grades. Okay, then don't make it about the grade. Make it about the completion, because as you laud them for their completion, other people are going to see that, and they're going to buy in because they see that kid's getting better, the next kid's getting better, and eventually it's gonna take. You just have to be willing to stick with it.
You were talking about like how detail oriented those things are, but like I think the best phrase I heard when starting teaching was like the excellence is in the details.
Yeah.
So if you don't establish things from the beginning with the end goal in mind, I know I say that a lot, but it's true. If you don't establish those small details to create the excellence, it's not going to happen. But tagging on to objective sheets, which I think are great because it gives you a chance to see every kid do what they're supposed to do, and then you give them a timeline of how they're going to do it and structure it. Your kids are your best system of accountability. If you can get your kids on top of the other kids saying like, hey, this was due on this day, or like section leaders, that is like a blessing from the Lord himself, because if you cannot do everything by yourself. And so once you create a sense of ownership within your program, whether that be an 8th grader or a 7th grader who's a strong leader, and having somebody else always, hey, we need to get this done. This is a team effort. It's not about you. Those types of things, then your program just blows up because everyone cares about what they're doing, not just there's an adult barking at you, telling you what you're supposed to do. And when you have objective sheets, you've got section leaders, you create a rapport that you need in order to be excellent too. Because if the kids feel like they are wanted or they're needed somewhere, then it takes care of itself. I think those are really important things to include in programs if you don't already have them.
Yeah, and just for the record, Chris is back, but Corey.
Yeah, I'm back.
Corey said something about establishing accountability from the very beginning. Corey, and I know the answer to this, but I just want you to tell folks, when the kid walks into your band program the very first day, what do you do with them?
Like in 6th grade?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not militant, I promise. But you can tell like my awesome voice here. When students like in 6th grade, they're not allowed to enter the band hall on the first day until they're outside in a line. And it's nothing militant, it's nothing yelling, but I want to know, like, can you follow simple instructions to let you know that the band hall is a place that you need to respect? I mean, we got expensive instruments that nobody wants to pay for. You don't want to pay for a $6,000 tuba. You stay in your little square and wait for me to tell you what we need to do. So like we talk about like how we enter the band hall from day one, and just letting them know that we're going to respect each other and we're going to respect the space that no one else that's not in band can be in. And yeah, you want to start it from day one.
Yeah, I think the thing about the excellence thing with the whole program is that you have to be consistent in everything you do. In your presentation from the day one, like Corey was saying, I mean, I did the same thing at Rogers where when we have our 6th graders come the very first day, they line up outside of our classroom door. And they get into our routine of giving them, like we give them daily instructions and they come in a certain way, and it's very much the same way. And it's just consistent because I want them to know that when they come to the band hall, that this is different than their English class. And this is different than their math class. And it's not that it's like, it's not militant or anything. It's just, we have to be super organized because we have lots more people that we have to work with. And we want them to understand that this is a special thing. Music is the only thing that that takes place in time and space. And so if we waste any time, you know, we don't get that time back to help them, and they can't create that music again. And so I think consistency from the beginning, and I'm sorry, I kind of popped back in after I fixed my internet. And I think sharing, you know, like a good thing about with the program being excellent, things like that is, you know, they were talking about objective sheets and things like that. And I totally agree with that, but also making sure that the kids are a part of the plan. You know, you know, with the older bands, I'll always give them things that I'll give them a plan of the whole month that we're in, and it's what we're covering every rehearsal and what we need to have. And there's an expectation from the very beginning that when you walk in the band that day, this is what we're going to cover. And if it's not ready to go, then that's a problem. Like I'm not, that's just the expectation. Like they have to come in prepared for the class, and I give them that information. And so I think just finding ways to be consistent the entire time, from the very first time you see them, you know, all the way into performing bands and into high school, you know, that will help the program.
Yeah, a lot of our conversation is circled around holding the kids to a standard, holding the kids accountable. But how do you hold yourself and how do you hold your staff to a certain level of accountability, of excellence for your program?
If I can, John, you know, I think that it is really by example. And, you know, the caring part, and this is hard for some people because, you know, band moves so fast. And you know, we have this goal in mind, and usually the goal is what I hear the piece of music, you know, before we actually touch it. And there's so much more to it than just the teaching of the music. And as far as staff is concerned, they will follow what you do. One of the things I was thinking about through this process is that, you know, a lot of young teachers are on here, and they are not all going to get to go teach at the world's greatest place on the planet. You know, I had visions of grandeur when I graduated college, and my first job was in Rosebud, Texas. God bless Rosebud, because I learned a lot in Rosebud. It was great, but it wasn't what I thought I was going to be doing. You know, I just knew I was going to jump out into a back then 5A situation, but it didn't happen. But here's my point. Your staff is going to follow along with you if you show them that you care about them and that you have their growth in mind, that it's not all about you, that you're not the end all be all of everything, that you really care about those people around you, and that you really care about their growth, and you want them to learn also, and that you can create an opportunity for them to learn, whether that be giving them an opportunity to leave one day and to go watch someone else. One of my first jobs, well, when I first got to Houston at First Colony Middle School with Beth Ann Adams, one of the things she set up was multiple days for me to be able to go watch different teachers that she knew around the area, and to go sit an entire day to learn from some of the best band directors out there that were around the Houston area in the early 90s. And there was a lot. And it was really cool because I didn't know them and I didn't really know of them. And so she's like, hey, why don't you go and see this person? And it was great. Turned out that some of those people are lifelong friends. And so that helps with your staff as well.
I think that the establishment of common goals and common vocabulary is super important, and that a lot of young teachers, and I think there's a lot of student teachers and college students on this, that you may not find that in your first job. You probably won't. I hope you do, but you may not find that in your first job, and that's okay, because you'll learn from that in terms of what you really hope the ideal staff is, and then even when you become a head director. But the establishing of goals together, and the as head director, the willingness to realize that your idea wasn't the best idea. That's totally okay. But then the accountability to each other has got to become just an interwoven in the daily activity. So I'm going to jump back to that other question too, since I'm talking right now about keeping, how do you hold everybody accountable? And I think I heard, but having systems in place. I love systems and I love procedures, and I'm always eager to learn. there's like a title of that, y'all, in the business world, systems people and procedural experts. And I think that's pretty cool, but because we're masters at that, if we don't have systems in place. And so the leadership among the staff and the kids to recognize those things and to hold those things up. And then that accountability just becomes normal. And I think too, it's just the openness of discussing and talking when staff doesn't agree on goals and common vocabulary, the kids are going to know it in a second. And so even if you have to fake it, you have to fake that because they will not come to work if you're not coming to work.
Yeah. And you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, to kind of talk about this question about setting up something for me to be accountable for myself. Like, I mean, it's the head director's job at any school to be the one that kind of steers the ship. But I also think that it's also their job to be able to cultivate that kind of trust between staff and students. I mean, I know for me, I want to surround myself around people that I trust and people that are, great musicians and love kids and won't hesitate to tell me, Chris, that's not a good idea. Don't do that. Like, stop that right now. Like, I've had some great assistants that have looked at me and square in the eye and go, Chris, you don't want to do that. That's not going to work. And I feel comfortable doing that because, like, I feel like that for me, I'm looking at the overall picture, but sometimes, when you have assistants that are able to see like from a different angle, they share that with you, and that trust goes both ways because then, they take a chance by saying that to you, and then if you react the right way, then you cultivate more trust with them, and then it's this awesome thing that comes up, and then they'll just say whatever you want to say. So I think that cultivating that, first of all, like, I have to be accountable, that I have to be excited to come to work. I need to have goals for the program, and then but the thing that I love to do is talk to our staff once I kind of have some ideas about, well, what do y'all think we should do, and where should we go next? And that's always fun for me, is to get their ideas because, because it's just more fun being a part of a program and a group of people that are all wanting the same thing together. And even getting the kids to come to me and go, like, I have no problem telling the kids, and I've told them before, like, if I don't do something right, or if I skip a step, or if I did something wrong, I want you to come tell me. And I've had kids that have come up and told me later after band rehearsal, Mr. Bennett, we didn't do that today. We should have done that today. And there's nothing wrong with that. Or like if I've been told, if we've had a clinician out, I've been told specifically to do something and I skip that step, and the kids can raise their hand and go, we need to do this. This is what so-and-so said. So I think trying to get everybody to where you take down as many of those walls of them feeling uneasy, because maybe, while you do have to have that, student-teacher relationship, of course, you also want it to be comfortable enough to where, like, a kid can look at you and go, hey, why don't we try it like this? Or I really think this is a good idea. Because then you just start a whole new conversation with them, and the kids start doing it because they love to do it versus because they have to do it. The intrinsic motivation versus the extrinsic motivation.
And heck, we're in each other's homes now. So
right.
we have to have that trust. I'm like, my gosh, we're in each other's houses, and that kind of comes with its own fun too. But
hopefully we won't be staying here. We'll be able to go back to doing band.
Please.
And no one's really touched on this yet, but like, as far as, having a good rapport with your staff and your administration and like things like that, I think it's important that you have a mentor that's going to hold you accountable too. And I think the earlier you do it, the better. And this is like, aside from, I'm going to send somebody my tape 2 weeks before UIL so they can give me some, like, number one, you ain't going to get nothing done because what's done is done by that point. But I think it's important to have someone to see where the start of the program is and where the end of the program is. And you can talk about goals, about how to get them there. There's so many people who have already been through the process. And if you can align yourself with someone who has similar ideals, that is so beneficial. and they're unbiased. Like, what stake do they have in it? And so if they can give you an unbiased opinion about what they see, or you said you were going to do this by this time, I don't see this happening, let's talk about it, then that is completely invaluable.
Right, and to hop on what Corey was saying, I agree with you 100%. Like, whoever you know, find someone that you trust to listen to your band and help you, but also like set up time in the summer before school starts and at the end to debrief and see where you were. Because I know I've learned the most about my teaching and about what we can do when I sit down with our, you know, the people that work with our school and go, okay, you know, this is what we want to achieve this year. And then we come up with a plan. And then at the end of the year, we sit there and reflect and go, did we do it or not? If we didn't, why couldn't we do it? If we did, what's the next step? And so I think that's really good to, you know, to kind of give up that kind of, you know, to give that trust to somebody to absolutely help yourself. I think that's absolutely right.
You know, I think it's important that we understand that looking at all the people answering where you're from, we run the gamut of, you know, band programs and the makeup from, like John said earlier, from the small district, one band director, even large district, one band director, to urban, to wherever. So I think as we answer these questions, I think we just want y'all to know that we're not saying that it's always one size fits all, because, you know, myself and Susan, you know, I'll throw us out here as the ones who've been doing this, you know, for almost 30 years, you know, and
30.
Yeah, 30 for her, almost 30 for me.
No rounding, please.
Yeah. But, you know, it is important that the people you work with, if you don't have a mentor or someone that you can talk to about what you're doing, that would be something that you could definitely do after this call. You know, I'll throw myself out there, you know, because that's the other thing I do. You know, that's one of the things God put me on this planet to do is to be a mentor to people and to guide people. So, you know, it is so awesome to have someone that can help you with your craft and then even with your life, you know, because band can beat you up.
And coming from someone who's taught 30 years, it's an amazing time for this. In the old days, and a long time ago, Corey talking about send your tape to someone 2 weeks before. Y'all, that's all we did. It was maybe 1 week before. Will you come over and listen to my band and help fix us for a contest? That's how it was for a long, long time. And now that we have this, I don't know if other states, but in Texas, it's a cool thing where we have mentors and people that we have a relationship with throughout the school year, and to help us continue to grow and grow and grow. That's a really neat thing. And so, and finding that person who you align with and common goals and methods of communication, and like, have you heard their work? Do you want your group to sound like that? If not, don't call that person. If you want your group to sound like that, and you're like, how did that? Call that person. And don't be scared to call somebody who you think, you know, oh, they don't, call that person. Definitely call that person.
And you have to do this early. The common misconception is that I will invite someone to hear my band after I'm ready for them to hear it. I can't tell you. Yes, I can't tell you how important it is to have someone there before the beginning, in the beginning, if you will, because it is that important. Because you know what, honestly, that's a pride thing. That's one thing you'll find out is that it's really, you kind of like, I really don't want anybody to see this until I'm comfortable with it. And then if someone comes in and they kind of give you something that's not what you think it is, I don't know if you're able to handle that in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
But if you have someone there from the beginning, they can see your situation and they can help you
navigate
based on your situation, how to navigate with what you have. If you can't afford it, there are avenues and venues out there that can help you. You know, if you're in, well, not just Texas, but in Texas, the 5AMU Band Director Service Network, you know, free clinic, you know, so there are ways to get people to help you, but you got to search them out. But it's got to be done early.
And like, you got to have a growth mindset on that. Like, you want them to come before it's ready. How are you going to grow if not? You want, please,
And
learn that lesson.
As a young director myself, I want to encourage everybody out there, don't be afraid to ask people who you don't know. Don't be afraid to reach out, an email, a text, whatever it is, to get in contact with somebody. You'll see the panelists for tonight, like Susan. I've never met Susan in my life. Chris, I've never met him in person, but I was able to reach out, and it happened. Everything worked out that they could help out here. But you can't be afraid of putting yourself out there, sticking your neck out, and be ready to take some licks. Like was said earlier with the ego, check it at the door, and then you'll be fine. You'll be good. And you guys have kind of been alluding, or been dancing around this, but how do you, besides hearing somebody, let's say I'm in, New England, how do I find a mentor? How do I select somebody that's right for me?
That's a good question.
It could take, it's probably not going to happen instantly. It might happen instantly, but you have to go looking for it. I mean, you have to invite people into your life. You have to invite people into your program, or you may be in a place where it's hard, but now we got Zoom. So
you know what? I found that for me, it was a really good thing to attend state conferences and any other type of professional development there was. Who's talking? What are you talking about? Like, okay, I like what you're saying. Would you mind if I emailed you? Would you mind if I got your number and I can call you sometimes? And people are way more likely to do that than we give them credit for.
Right.
And I know we're all very busy and we're at school from dark 30 to dark 30. I get it. But people want to talk to, we like to talk then. We want to see who else is out there and who wants help. Because if you think about it, the people who are really willing to help you are the ones who've been through it before, and they remember why they started, and they remember where they were, and they don't want people to have to go through things that they didn't go through, because this is not a rite of passage. This is an opportunity for you to get better, faster at what you do, because your kids deserve that. You don't deserve to sit there and struggle.
And so, and so, like, to tag on to going to your conventions and going to clinics and workshops and stuff, not just, I'm nervous to say this because there's a lot of people, but not just in the official capacity, but also outside of the official capacity. Sit down and go up to someone and, well, we're not shaking hands anymore, whatever, hello. And if the group of people is sitting there enjoying a beverage, and like, that's okay, ask questions. I've met so many fun people in that situation. I've met so many fun people at the Hyatt bar because we're sitting there and chatting, and a new person came up, and a new person came up, and a new person came up, and then that's how you can network to meet the people that will align with what you want to do. The whole thing about not being nervous is really important.
I'll just kind of piggyback on this topic about finding a mentor. Now, I would first try to find somebody, try to do your research also, like Rory was saying, it's not going to, like, a mentor is just not going to fall into your lap. You have to kind of seek out people to help you and invite people in your life. And so, I would urge everybody to go to your state conventions or just go and look at who's doing great things and awesome things, and then go and listen to their groups. And because you have to also find somebody that you're comfortable with coming in and going, well, okay, well, this is doing really well. What is it about this group, and what can I do to have my kids sound like this? And so, do your research too, where you're trying to go, okay, well, they're doing these awesome things, and I really want to find out how to do these awesome things. And so go at it from that way, where you're trying to, do your research and know what you're wanting to. And then also, for instance, like, there are different people that are good at different things in the clinician world and the mentor world. And so, and so what you have to realize is that not every one of those people may do everything you need them to do. And so you want to make sure that you also find people that can help balance things out, and things that you need. Like, for instance, if there's a specific skill or things that you're lacking, that you want to strengthen on, find people who will help you with that. And then I think the biggest thing I would say is find people who are going to be honest with you, that they're just going to tell you what it is. I mean, like I had one of my mentors about 6 years ago. She looked at me and she gave me some of the best information I've ever gotten, and I owe a lot to her. But I appreciated the honesty that she gave me, because it made a lot of difference in things I did after that. And so find people who are going to not just tell you the great things that are happening, but find people who are going to be honest with you and tell you how to make the next step and how to do the next thing. And I think that'll be helpful too, as you're trying to find a mentor also.
And can I say something? You know, you're absolutely right, Chris. Is that find? That's the word. And in some places, you may not feel like the people you work with are the ones that you want to be your mentor. Unfortunately, that happens. So I'm just being real. Okay, because relationships are real, and that does happen. But I will say this: if you're not respectful to the people you work with, it's not going to work that way. So as you're finding, make sure you're finding in a respectful way, not disrespecting the people that you work with while you're trying to find someone that you value. You're finding someone that's doing what you want to do and going out, but you got to be respectful to the people that you work with as well, because you got to go with them every day.
Right. And dude, I wasn't watching the little scroll. Do we have college students with us?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So, and the location of my school it's ideal, but if you're a college student, and in fact, there may be some that I've met this way, call someone and ask, can you come observe? Now, I know you have to do that for some of your classes, but because of where my school is, I get 2 great universities, great schools of music, and I'll get students. I've never said no, never.
Exactly.
Unless it was a testing day.
Right.
And the emails are, can I please come watch you teach? I'm always like, wow, that'd be awesome. I mean,
Bring it on.
Yeah.
All day, every day.
There have been some days where we've had 3 or 4 college observers, and my students are accustomed to that. But ask. Just ask and be willing to. I'll say, we only have a 20-minute lunch, so bring a sack lunch and just eat with us, and
Right.
we can ask more questions. So, if you're a college student, don't just go to the school. Sometimes you have to go to these or do these kind of hours. Call. People aren't going to say no unless it's someday.
Take a road trip to Roma.
Yeah. Go
see Corey. It is a road. You might want to take a plane.
That's a flight. That's not no road trip. That's
exactly right.
First of all, calm down.
We need 2 sack lunches.
Right. 2 sack lunches.
But to kind of keep it going here, we've talked a lot about getting a mentor and finding somebody to, come listen to your bands and things. What if you're in a situation where you can't afford to bring somebody in?
Well, that's the beauty of what we're in now. Like
Right.
there's at this stage of the game, there's no excuse. If you want help, you can get help.
Right.
Record yourself and not only send it to somebody else, but listen to it for yourself so that you can hear it before you send it out to somebody. Because you may think, I remember, and I talk about this all the time. The first time I recorded my band, I was so proud of myself. I got my little device and I'm first chair band director. And I recorded it and I thought it was so wonderful. And then I put it in the car and I drove home and I cried the whole way because it was horrendous. It was not anything that I thought it was, because you can't catch everything from the podium. So if you're kind of like flying by the seat of your pants every day and thinking you're hearing one thing and then the kids are hearing something, like, how are you ever going to fix anything? I do want to go and give up one bit of caution though. You can have too many people on a project and you can ask for too many people's advices, because while we all do have a common goal, we all have different ways of getting there.
That's correct.
We all have different tone concepts. We all value different things too. I'm not saying that you shouldn't get a variety of opinions, but you can inundate yourself to the point where it's more harmful than it is good, because they're like, what do I do? But if you want people to help you, and like I'm a prime example. I am forever away from the rest of society. Like, I don't have a established clinician, so I'll usually get one person to come in January, and that's it. Because that's one, logistically, all things that can really happen. And two, it takes a lot of money to fly places sometimes too. But we sold our chocolate, we earned some money, and we got enough money for those people to get here. But either fundraise and make it happen, figure out a way to allocate some more funds to make it happen, but record yourself, put it on Dropbox, and go for it, because you can get instantaneous results from that too.
I'm gonna let you go in just a second, Chris. Start dropping questions in the chat. If you have a question that you want to ask, put it in the chat. I can't promise we're gonna get to everything, but we have an army of people and only 3 people to answer, for 4 people to answer. So drop your questions, and we're gonna do our best to try to address them. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say on this topic, don't be afraid to reach out to your state conventions too, because like in Texas, we have the Phi Beta Mu network where they're able to come in and do some clinics like that, and also just reach out to people. Like, I think the big thing we talked about mentors is just reach out, because I would not, if someone called me and said, I would like for you to come help, but we have funding issue, I'll go, okay, well, I'll help you. Like, it takes a lot just to ask, and so, I don't mind helping people. And I can say the people that are here and the people that I know, that people want to help each other. That's the really neat thing about this profession, is that we all want to help. We're all out after the same goal, is to help kids. And so, I would just urge you guys just to reach out. If money is an issue, first of all, maybe talk to your local administration and see if there may be funding available that you may not know is available. Maybe there's allocation of money you can work with. But if there is something, reach out and ask, and also look at your state organizations, because there may be ways for you to get, clinician help and things like that, that maybe you hadn't thought of before, And so I would just urge you just to find as many avenues as you could for that.
Yeah. Right on. We're gonna. I see a lot of folks asking about the objective sheet.
I'm trying to find one. I'll drop one in here in a second.
I'm about to drop a couple. There's a million ways to do them. There's a million ways. So I have 2, and then hopefully by that time we might be able to have a couple more examples. Let's see. We can screen share real quick. So this is just one example. Like I said, it's not the only way. This is one example of a objective sheet. This is for the 3rd band at our school that we did this past year. And it's important that kids can get credit for even trying on this. So if you see in where my cursor is, it talks about a pass is a 100 and a try is 50. So if they attempt it, they get credit for it. And they can try it as many times as they want. So you see their major grades, which is like a test, minor grades, which is your quiz grades, and then your other grades, which are like your homework grades, right? And then on the back of this objective sheet, I had some music theory stuff happening. So that's one example of what an objective sheet looks like. And then one more before we go on is, this is at a different high school or a different school. This is for scales, right? So major scales, scales and thirds, concert music. So there's a lot of different things that can be used for this.
I think this is a vocabulary thing, because I'm gonna be honest, I had no idea what an objective sheet was. We call it an exit ticket. So I was like, oh, that's an exit ticket. That's cool. That is really cool. Again, systems and procedures.
Yeah, and for us, with those is we do.
There you go. I just sent one in the group chat.
For us, we'll have students that have to play off and pass off the different objectives and things like that, and the kids get as many times as they want. We have with the older kids at the junior high, there's a rubric that we have that's basically it's 100, an 80, and a 60. It's like you kind of can, or you can't, and they can do it again if they want to, but they just understand that there's certain vocabulary, like if you can execute this at this level, you get this grade. And then they know within 9 weeks, for instance, the first 9 weeks, and we're working on mostly all region music and things like that, they know that they have to do certain things within that first 9 weeks, and they get one of those 3 grades along the way, and so you know, it's the same kind of concept. We just do it a different way with pass offs and things like that, where they play they play it off a little differently, but it's the same stuff we do.
All right, so we got a ton of questions here. I'm going to try to get it what's most what a consensus as far as questions go. This is from Christina Hernandez. How do you go about creating a new culture when following a retiring teacher who was there for several years?
Ooh, patience.
That's hard, but yeah, I can defer to someone else. Go ahead.
I mean, patience is the number one thing, but here's the biggest question on that, or the biggest answer. Does the administration and the community think that the culture needs to change? And if they don't, then you got to go just step by step on the definition of what your vision and your new success is. Because a lot of times, status quo or whatever the situation, no one thinks there's anything wrong with that. They're playing correct. Jingle bells at the Christmas or winter concert and doing the parade, or what, you know, they're doing the things bands are supposed to do. So I think that's the number one thing. If you're going into that situation, you have to figure out, did the parents and administration and the community think that anything needs to change? Because if they don't, and you come in there all blazing, not going to go good. So this is like step by step by step by step.
Yeah, with that, what I would say is if you're going in a situation like that where you feel like the culture needs to change for one reason, maybe there's pressure from, you know, if you're a junior high feeding the high school or something like that, or if you're about junior high, you hire someone, maybe there's some. So the first thing you need to do is kind of take inventory about what's there, what works, what doesn't work, and where. And like Susan was saying, like, does anybody think it needs to change? And more importantly, do the important people in your life think it needs to change? The principal, the community, and all those people. If they think that it needs to change, then it's a lot easier. But if not, like Susan was saying, then you have to like attack it one step at a time. And so, like, for instance, if you're going to a place where, like, let's say you're a junior high director and the high school person hires you to turn around a program, but like, let's say like your local administration is like, well, everything's been going great here. I don't know what the problem is. You have to slowly eat away at all the little things and let some things go for just a little bit of time. And just, it's kind of like playing the long game versus the short game. You can go in guns blazing and you can try to play the short game, but I guarantee you lasting effects won't take place. And so if you'll play the long game, and for instance, in that situation, you know, start educating parents and administration as to why this is great. And all that time, you're never talking poorly about anybody else. You're super professional. Everything is awesome that came before you, but this is just like the next level. It's just the next step. It's just the next thing. You're never, ever talking poorly about anybody, regardless of what your feelings may be. And that includes to staff, students, parents, everybody. You know, you can say whatever you want to at home, but like when you're at school in front of anybody, it's always, everything was great. This is just the next step in the process. And so start with the local people that matter a lot. And then the next step is empowering the kids and going up to finding those influential kids, because we all know we have those kids, the influential kids that, you know, you used to, like, the thing I love to do is I love my listenings. I love sitting down with my kids for 15 minutes on the region music or their concert music, whatever, solos, because not only do I work with them on their music, I love talking to them as kids. Like, I love sitting next to them, and I know that that's one thing that I'm really good at is, like, I'm pretty effective in front of the group, but I'm real effective sitting next to the kid. And so, like, I talk to them a lot. And when I've taken over programs, like, I've sat down with them and built that rapport with the student and got the kids excited about, like, hey, what do you think about this? Go listen to this. What do you think about this? And it kind of, what you're doing is you're attacking it from the administration level, educating them. You're educating the parents, because the coolest thing is if the parents come up to you and say, man, the band's sounding better, but you never have said anything about that. You want them to start figuring it out. And that's what's cool. And then the kids are like, well, we're practicing more. And I like sitting, you know, I like learning and kids everywhere, all kids everywhere like people that spend time with them. There's no substitution for time. time is the most important thing we have with kids. And people that spend more time with their kids to help them with something, those kids will show gratitude in either turning programs around like we want to, or just trying harder. And so I would just say, be patient, be kind to people, and be understanding about it, that Rome wasn't built in a day. You just have to be patient with it. Now, if everyone's on board and everyone thinks it should change, then that's a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. We're going to see if we can squeeze one, maybe two more questions in before we hit the buzzer. What are some examples? This is from Brittany Clark. What are some examples of follow through or consequences when students aren't engaging or preparing appropriately other than docking grades?
Well, they lost their privilege. Go sit back there. You don't get to play with us. I'm sorry. We are way beyond that behavior. Go back there. And then hopefully you have another staff member that can make them sit down. I don't no, I'm not messing around with that. We have an established decorum, established expectation. And they don't want that. They want to be in the group.
Sometimes too,
it takes a while to, if you're in a place where, I agree with you, Susan, because and some people can do that, like, look, go over there and you're out of the mix. And then some places your administration won't allow you to do that. But no, I'm not in one of those places, but I know one of the things that we do is, like, for instance, when kids come in tardy, for instance, we have a timer that runs before the bell rings. The bell rings, that starts a 1 minute timer. And when I say the tardy bell rings, kids have been coming in, starts a 1 minute timer. So they have 1 minute after the tardy bell to get everything together to be where they're supposed to be. Now I'm in high school. In junior high, I established it just like they did. We wait outside, we learn how to come in, and then it becomes a thing. But talking about now, when students come in late, I had one student recently that was notoriously late. He would walk in late every day, earbuds and, AirPods, whatever, doing his thing. And you could tell he just didn't care. And so what I do is I literally have a second band setup. It's not big. It's right off to the side. It's not a band setup. It only creates itself when the students come in late. There's about 3 chairs over there and 3 stands. And they have to sit over there apart from the band. When they're still there, they still have their binder. They still have everything they're supposed to have. I started this in junior high, but I do this in high school. And we do this with every level of band in high school. If the higher level of band, it takes care of itself pretty quickly. The lower level of band, it didn't happen as quickly, but this kid and a couple others started to realize, wait a minute, I don't like being over here. I want to be over there. And every day that I come in, he's making me sit over here. I'm still playing my instrument. I still have to do everything that everyone else is doing, but I'm sitting off to the side and, like, another band. I've created this, and it's not like, woohoo, cool place to be. It's like no one's buying into what he's doing. Everyone's buying into what we're doing. And it became a thing where this kid all of a sudden started getting to his section first. I'm not saying that's going to happen. It's not instant, but we did that with every level of band, from band 1 down to band 4. We did it with every level of band.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to ask one more question before we get to 7:30. But before we do that, I want to thank our clinicians. Everybody give a hand for our fabulous clinicians for doing this for us. There was zero hesitation from any of them. It was absolutely, how can I help? It was so thank you guys. And your wealth of knowledge it's certainly enriching what I'm doing. And I'm learning a lot tonight. Secondly, I want to thank all of you for being here. If you're on Facebook, we've had about 60 folks on Facebook. We have people in almost 30 different states. We're in 4 different countries tonight.
What?
So all of you that are here, folks, thank you.
That's
awesome.
amazing. Yay, man.
I hope that you guys are getting something out of this. I certainly know that I am. I'm glad that we could have some positivity tonight, and with all this funkiness and not being able to teach our kids like we're used to. Know that we're definitely thinking about you. We're praying for you. Organizations like FCM, Fellowship of the Christian Musicians, is praying for you guys. So thank you again. Let's wrap this thing up with one more question. If you want to keep dropping questions, you can. I'll try to compile them and distribute them somehow or another. But keep dropping 66 new messages. My, okay. All right, here's the last question.
Hey, John,
Yes,
I'm cool to put our email addresses on here if anyone has a question. So, okay, I'll do that. Go, John. Ask
all right, here we go, Cats and Jammers. How do you get students to buy in if the school district's culture is historically apathetic? That's from Scott Thompson. How do you get students to buy in if the school district's culture is historically apathetic?
Okay, you're going to have to be an edutainer. That's short and simple.
Ooh.
So you need to go, you're going to have to restart and start it with 5th graders that are coming into your 6th grade band or whatever grade it is. Be present at their campus. Buy whatever new trend, Harry Potter, Fortnite, whatever it is, and you get out there and you sell the program. But as far as being at the actual school, because you're now getting kids that are unbiased, they don't know any different. The kids at the actual school, you need to be a squeaky wheel. And the squeaky wheel is the one that gets the oil. So you give every opportunity for a performance that you can. If it's 5 kids in the band, whatever, you sell it and you make it cool that they feel like this is something that is cool. And I know that's really intimidating. Like, you've got so many people who are against the program, I guess, as the case could be. I've been there before. I know what that feels like. But if you have enough charisma to sell your program, no one else is going to do it for you.
That's right.
You're going to have to get in the community, call parents, hey, can I get you to help this? And when parents feel like they're a part of something, they will do whatever they can for their child, no matter what. And so if you get parents talking about it in the community and you getting other parents, well, such and such mom is doing this and I'm such and such mom's friend, use that to your advantage. And then when the principal sees that type of community outreach, I think things like that, that's when it starts to change. That's really intimidating. That's a huge some obstacle to overcome, but it's not impossible. Use what you do have to your advantage and sell your program.
Yeah, get those parents involved quick, and let them be doing projects while you're teaching. And see the interaction and the kids working hard at that. Ooh, just comes right back around.
One thing that I always think about it in my teaching with our kids is like, it's the concept of like success breeds success. When the kids feel good, when the kids know that something's good, even if it's not where you want it to be, but remember, progress is more important than the end goal. Progress is all we can do. But success breeds success. And so little victories and little successes along the way lead to bigger ones down the road. And once you have more success as you go, then the program starts to build on the momentum of the successes. And so just always remember, it may just start with something like a small success in your mind, but that small success will start to multiply and it will start being noticed by the right people in the community. And then it'll only get bigger from there. So just stay positive. And just remember that, success breeds success always.
Yeah, and you got to stay positive, even when it's not going your way. Corey, you said something about 5 people. I remember having the opportunity to kind of change a culture, and I said, look, we're going to go this way, and even if there's only 5 of you left, we're still going to go because I know you 5 are going to give it all that there is to give. And when those people start to buy, those 5 start to buy in. And it just kind of creates its own momentum, like Chris was saying. And I have literally seen it happen. And I have seen a program change almost overnight. We'll say over a year. But I have seen it. And it is amazing to see that it becomes a thing that even on the campus, people start to notice that things are different. And it just light starts to shine out of the thing instead of what did you say? It was like apathetic or whatever. It just, things change. You have to be willing to stay the course when you know what you're doing is right. Okay. Not just doing your own thing for your own reasons, but when you know what you're doing is right, stay the course.
Yeah. This is, woo, I'm ready to go teach band tomorrow. Let's go.
Well,
I'm ready, man.
You can't do that because
look, we can have percussion, social distance, 6